I don't know how it goes.
It doesn't even start with it. That comes when later. That comes when later.
Okay.
Did you forget? Right. I don't blame you for forgetting because it has almost been 2 months since we filmed the first 2 episodes.
It's been a long time. It wasn't supposed to take this long.
No.
For the launch to happen.
It's been fantastic. I think it eventually launched far better than we expected, but it I don't know how much you want to say, but there was some drama to get to this point.
There was a lot of drama, yes. Look, it looks like we just roll up and hit record because it's just a podcast. But like, it took a lot of planning, a lot of setting up, and then there was a lot of behind-the-scenes bureaucratic stuff that stopped us from launching for a while.
Yeah, it got delayed.
I would love to talk about, but I think we're gonna.
It's a whole. Do you want to? We could talk about it in the bonus episode.
I think that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, that would.
I mean, we should give them a tease and just mention like something to these people who will watch us.
Yeah. Well, we I don't know. We were working with people to make this happen, and then we weren't, and now it's just us. And if you want to hear that story, we'll do it in the bonus. But talk about the good stuff. We've been #1 on Apple Podcast for gaming for literally since we launched.
When we decided we were going to do this, our goal was to be #1 on Apple Podcasts, which I still call iTunes.
Yeah,
but,
same. We're old. We're very old.
I never expected us to be there for that long.
Yeah, I know. I thought my goal was to
and
try
immediately.
I know. Well, I was like, we'll go in. Well, because here's the thing: Kit and Krista were #1 when they launched, and they had that title that
we're like, Kit and Krista, we gotta beat them.
That we alluded to, like we wanted to just kind of replicate it, steal it. The idea is we're Nontendo, we're fake Nintendo, we're stealing the brand, the idea, the concept. So it made sense for us to meme. It made sense for us to meme on what they had done too, and kind of do an offshoot of that, and tie the joke all together. And we thought maybe that would make us #1 for a day. We didn't expect to be #1, as we still sit here a week and a half later to record. Actually, I think it's even been longer than that to record the next episode 3. So thank you everyone that listened to the audio. Thank you to the 100,000 views on YouTube and the 20,000 subs on YouTube. That the subs came before we even put 1 episode up, which is crazy.
Right.
The Discord is popping. There's an entire Nontendo community that has all happened, and we've watched it all happen in the space of a week or two. When we've been sat on these episodes for like 2 months, it feels surreal.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to see if anybody is listening to this who doesn't follow us from YouTube or anything.
Yeah,
like that was the big push.
Podcast.
Yeah, the big push was that people know us from our YouTube videos and stuff. So I'd imagine that a bunch of the big fans from there came over to watch us on the longer form content. But are there anybody who's just fans of podcasts who's like, what's this thing that's #1 right now, or that's really high on this chart?
Maybe you were either tricked into thinking it was actually officially Nintendo, or you just saw that it was sat at #1 this whole dang time, and you were like, maybe I should check that out. Either way, thanks for being a part of this. For us right now, I mean, I don't know about Bob, this feels like the start. Finally, we're sitting down now that it's live. Now we've seen the reaction. In a groove,
yeah.
And we're finally making we even had a TikTok blow up. That's how you know we're doing great. We had a TikTok get like 50,000 views or something on a brand new account. In fact, the TikTok is popping. We're getting like a few thousand views every clip that we post. So I don't know what's going on. Apparently, you guys like it. I see a lot of other
podcast clips on TikTok. So Tip Top, Tim Tam. What do you kids call it?
Yeah,
I see a lot of
you
other
you are a
podcasts
year older than me. I forget that. So TikTok is the cool app that the kids use.
Right. Okay.
Right.
I understand now.
Don't worry about it. I'll be the one that continues.
People dance
working
on
with
it, right? Do we have to dance? Are we gonna do a dance?
We could do a dance. Do you want to do a dance?
No. Is it in my contract?
People really liked you shirtless with a little necktie with a whip. If you danced, we could break the internet.
People like that a little too much. I'd also like to say, for legal reasons, we're just big fans of Nintendo. This is an homage to Nintendo. We're not trying to trick anybody for legal reasons.
We had a whole episode talking about why we do not work with Nintendo. I think we've done our due diligence. And I want to clarify, and this will lead into the episode. I've seen some comments, and this is fair, people saying, well, I guess this podcast is Bob and Wood getting out their grievances with Nintendo, which I get. I get why you would think that. The first episode was obviously heavily talking about arguably the most interesting thing we have to talk about with Nintendo, so we got that out of the way. But then even the second one was talking about Nintendo's future, but also like the bad things Nintendo, the mistakes Nintendo has done. That's not what this was about. The show isn't about that inherently. That's just what naturally ended up happening. In fact, this episode is very much in Nintendo's favor, but I'd say even more so in indie games' favor, because it's really about people being too hard on Nintendo, maybe even us sometimes, but specifically so with like directs and indie directs and the fallout of a direct.
So I love indie games and checking out all the new stuff and seeing what like a team of like 1 to like 5 people can scrap together and see what their story is all about and whatever. I don't love every indie game. There's a lot of ones that just don't jive with me. But a lot of my favorite genre of game ends up just leading itself well to like indie stuff. So I like trying to see what everybody's got going on. A lot of the reason, though, we decided to talk about this today was because the last Indie World showcase got a lot of crap. People really were not about it. People were like mad that it wasn't that good of an announcement.
That it sucked.
But like, yeah, how could you be mad at a bunch of indie developers?
That? You heathens!
Like, what's wrong with you people?
No, I didn't get it either. And I mean, I think I look at indies differently. I think I look at indies a great way personally. Because I built a lot of my channel and a lot of my content around reviewing indies. My 10 eShop videos are literally 99% of them are indie games. And me finding out every indie game I can play, ones people have never heard of, seeing if they're fun and then recommending them. And then in that, I've developed this love for indies, and a lot of it has come from seeing the unique concepts and ideas that indie games explore. Because a lot of AAA games and your big budget stuff is fun. The blockbusters are obviously fun, but they don't really go into exploring unique and fun and quirky mechanics, or really just, a couple people basing a whole idea around their game. And you discover and find a lot of that with indie games. And, when I watch an indie direct, I'm looking for those ideas. I'm looking for those concepts. And that last Indie World that I saw, I feel like every single game had a different art style, had a different theme, topic, idea, like gameplay mechanics, even colors. Like everything was popping in such different and contrasting ways that I feel like if you gave even a game a chance, there's something there for everyone to love. But then the reaction online was just sucked, bad, horrible games. Where's Hollow Knight next?
I'm going to be honest. When I didn't watch it when it came out because it was like, 9 in the morning, and I'm definitely sleeping.
Yeah, no, that's the one. That's Nintendo. Stop that, please.
Yeah, I rolled out of bed and I was like, all right, guys, what's the games that I should care about from the indie world, And then everybody's like Gunbrella, Crab Souls. Those are the games that are interesting. And then I read the recap afterwards and looked at a bunch of the trailers and stuff, and I found a lot of interesting things that maybe might not be in the genre that I'm particularly interested in, but they looked really cool. So there was a lot of cool stuff that was there. I think the problem was there wasn't, games people know about. And I think that happens in a lot of other different and big announcements too, is that when there's a new IP, people don't know how they should feel about it. It's got to have something that like another game was missing, or it's got to feel like a different game so that you can get excited about it. Oh, I played this game and this game looks like that game, so maybe I'll be interested in it.
Yeah, it really baffles me the reaction that some people can have, because like, I mean, I saw a lot of lists online, and you mentioned Gunbrella, and that was one that obviously people picked up on, but there was like that crab game that was there, like the Dark Souls crab
I called
game.
it Crab Souls, but
yeah,
I forgot what it's
and
called.
I didn't see barely anyone talking about that. And I actually initially didn't realize there was a bad reaction to it. And I put out a tweet, and I literally listed 10 games that I was looking forward to, which for me is a whole eShop video for me. And there were literally people in the comments on Twitter saying, "This is a joke, right? You're memeing, right?" Like everyone expected me to hate it, and they were actually confused why I was listing these games I was excited for or looking forward to. And you know, you go on YouTube afterwards, and a lot of the reaction channels, they lean into it. And I feel like that's part of the problem. And I don't want to call anyone out because everyone's doing their job and getting their views. And I know in the past, I've done that too. When I've noticed there's a bad reaction, even if I don't feel too strongly about it, that's kind of what you got to lean into because the click is there, you know? Oh, that direct was bad. It was horrible. And then people who didn't see the direct will click on it and be like, well, why was it so bad? Oh, the games just kind of sucked. All right. But I feel like that doesn't do the directs justice. It doesn't do the indie devs justice. And
yeah,
I mean
there are games that like your expectations should be set that these games are not going to be the most popular stuff.
Yeah.
Your expectation going into an indie world shouldn't be, oh, I hope there's a Smash announcement or something. I hope that we see what new Nintendo Switch Online games they're going to have. Like, no, it's just going to be a collection of small cheap games that are going to be thrown on the eShop within the next year. You know, it's kind of just Nintendo doing a service to some of their indie devs, and I think it's a great service that they provide.
Yeah, they don't even have to put these on either. By the way, this isn't like a Nintendo Direct where something like a Smash reveal directly helps Nintendo because it's their first party IP or whatever. This is literally Nintendo showing love to indie teams, which
who otherwise wouldn't have an audience if they weren't in something like this.
Right. And a lot of like platforms and consoles or whatever that make money from indies like anyone else don't do that. I mean, you don't have a PlayStation Indie World Direct where they like showcase just a bunch of indies because they're not their games. I mean, it's almost like, why would you do that if it's not your games? Well, why is Nintendo doing it? Purely to show appreciation to these teams and build them up. And also, I feel like there is a little bit of back and forth because, as I've always said, indies on Switch, especially early on, is what helped the Switch be so successful. The Switch is an indie powerhouse, and initially when games were kind of slow, when third-party dev teams weren't willing to jump on right away because the Wii U was a disaster, and we talked about that in the last episode, who was there to support them? Indies. I mean, games like SteamWorld Dig 2 sold like 10 times more on Switch than Steam. So it makes sense for them to want to support them, but they still don't have to.
Yeah. So, I mean, today we're going to talk to other people who are actually working with Nintendo because we are not working with Nintendo. We don't know what it's like to be on the opposite side. We know what it's like to watch these indie world stuff and be fans and be like, oh, that was pretty good, or oh, this isn't that good. But what about the people who are getting that reaction? What about the people who put their heart and soul into something, put it out there, and then everybody goes, boo, it's not Hollow Knight.
You know, I feel like in a way, while it's not working with Nintendo, we can relate. I mean, probably me more than you because your videos are pretty universally loved and respected. But I will spend weeks sometimes on a video and release it, and I'll get that boo reaction of, oh, this video sucked, or clickbait, or whatever. And I feel like it's a similar, not anywhere near, because games take years to develop, but that idea of like somebody has worked on something for who knows how many hours, who knows how long, you finally put it out, and then you've judged it in 2 seconds and gone, that sucks, not for me, boo, next. It's intense. Yeah. It's an intense vibe. And yeah, I'd love to ask, we have a couple of devs to talk to and ask them, like, what is it like to work on something for that long, put it out there, have it buried in something already, and just be passed over with, oh, that sucks. And even how hard was it to put it on the Switch in the first place?
I'm really interested in how easy Nintendo is to work with, but I don't think they would... I don't think any of these people are going to be willing to talk about that because, you know, they need, you know, they can't bite the hand that feeds them. In
my experience, when you try talking about the bad things about working with Nintendo, they just write you off and never reply to your emails ever again. So I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah. So I'd imagine there's some weird, like, behind the scenes stuff with working. I've heard a lot of different accounts from a lot of different people. Some people say Nintendo's super easy to work with. They have like a special indie department. They have a guy who's great, who manages basically all of the indie stuff. And then I hear other people talking about how it's a lot harder working with Nintendo. The certain regulations they have about being on the shop and stuff like that compared to Xbox or PlayStation. So I don't know what it's. I can't get an official word because nobody wants to be able to talk about it.
No, I've heard stories as well. I recently made a video about games that were delisted from the Switch, and there was a story in there about that NBA game, that Basketball Playgrounds, Undergrounds or something, where they released a game. It was a horrible version of the game, and they kept trying to push through updates with Nintendo, but Nintendo were not approving them. They were giving them like weeks and weeks of like, it'll be later. It'll be like a couple weeks before we can publish it. So what they ended up doing is scrapping the game and rebuilding it for Switch from the start, and then re-relisting it and relisting the game on the eShop, and they managed to get that version out quicker than if they had tried updating the version they had put on the Switch.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I'm interested to hear if they have any nightmare stories like that, although I doubt they'll be able to tell us.
Yeah, I don't think so. And also, like, how worth it is it? Like what's the return on having a game on the Switch specifically?
I guarantee you, I already told you, Steam Dig sold as much as it did. I think that's a great place to put an indie. But yeah, we'll ask him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my that's my go-to place to play indie stuff. Although I think the Steam Deck is kind of creeping up there. I've been thinking about these new games that I need to get, about getting it on the Switch versus the Steam Deck, and I think I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards the Steam Deck just because I can play it on my PC.
I think that's an interesting point. Maybe we should touch on that really quickly before we bring the first guest in. But the Switch is an indie powerhouse. It's an indie machine. And right. I've always had theories on why they're so successful, but I think a part of it is, for the most part, indies have this vibe of like forgotten Nintendo games from yesteryear. They feel like Game Boy games or GBA games or SNES games. And, you know, as much as blowing them up on a 4K TV can be great sometimes, there's something about having them in your hands. They almost always play perfect frame rates and perfect resolution because they're indies, and why wouldn't they? And being able to take them on the go, it just feels right. It feels like sitting in the back of a car when I'm 12 years old playing Pokemon for the first time. There's something about it that translates better to being played portably, I feel like, which is why it's great on Steam Deck too, but the Switch has just dominated that market for 5 years now.
I think that also there's just a huge user base on the Switch, so
that does help. That definitely helps.
That's why they're looking. A lot of these indies are looking to be put in front of an audience, and that's going to be the biggest stage that they can have something like that. But like you said, it is a lot of games that are trying to like mimic the 8-bit or 16-bit style, which is my jam. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And something about being on a Nintendo console when you're trying to mimic old Nintendo games just makes a lot of sense.
It just feels right. And again, I mean, like Steam, obviously with the deck, home of indies, because that's where they begin, right? They get thrown on there easy, but they also get drowned out on there. And it's not like Steam is really pushing them or doing Steam Indie Worlds. These indies are coming to Switch, usually because they're good. And then they get put in an indie world, and then everyone hears about them, and they blow up, and then before you know it, it's the next Hollow Knight. Do you want to talk to someone?
Yeah, I guess we should talk to. I'm sick of talking to you.
Yeah, I know. It's been 2 months, and I'm already over talking to you 20 minutes.
Let's get somebody else in here quick. Who we got? It was the first guy.
I think we got Arno lined up, and he's in France, and it's like... Oh, he's in London, actually, from France, but it's like 11 p.m. for him, so he might want to go to bed soon.
Oh, we got to get... Let's hurry up. Let's get him in here.
Come on, Honor. Better Arlo. I take it back. Hey, Bob.
Hi.
Did you know this episode is sponsored?
I did, because we're sitting here to do the sponsor bit.
It is our first sponsor on the Nontendo Podcast. Yay. Our first sponsor, you and I, together, which is weird. I've never done a sponsor with someone. And of course, it's with our friend and Satisfye, who we love.
Yes, we have. They got now. It's all back in black. It's the OLED, but in black. Pretend like this is an OLED Switch.
as the honorary Australian here, I think I have the right to go. The Gen 3 grip is now back in black.
They're Australian?
Yeah, it was AC/DC.
I didn't know they were Australian.
Yeah, they are. Well, pretty sure they are. Yeah, no, I think they are. Yeah, so now we only had white grips for the Gen 3, the new OLED Switch, but now they are in black as well as the popular Tropical Edition, which is also now, like our Bob has all of it on hand. I'm moving, which if you're watching the video, it's why I have nothing behind me. So all I have is just, the classic Beatemups limited edition grip.
I'm not going to get it.
You actually can't get anymore, and they're never coming back, so don't hold on for it. You'll have to go and get either black, white, or tropical.
But if you were interested in getting a Satisfye grip and you've been holding off on getting one and you want an OLED one, well, now there's all different colors and options for you, and you can use our code, which is what now?
Nontendo to get 5% off your purchase when you go to Satisfye.com. And just in case any of you are wondering, the Gen 3 grip can be used on the original Switches as well. It's completely universal because What?
I didn't know that.
What's that face? You didn't know that? Yeah, of course. Because the rubber inserts are designed in a new way that'll fit the old Switch and the new Switch. It completely replaces. How did you not know that? You did a Satisfye read the other day. He's ran to go and get an old Switch. I'm shocked he didn't know this, but that's why I wanted to clarify. All right, while he's running to get that, I'll say here he goes, opening the Beatemups limited edition one as well. I'll say that using a grip, the Satisfye grip on your Switch makes it so much more comfortable. I've always compared it to holding a PlayStation 4 controller. I wasn't lying. What did I tell you?
I had no idea. It does work. This is an ugly color combination, but it works.
Yeah, that's a really... I wasn't going to say anything, but the Mario red with my yellow does not look good. Well,
the back looks cool. The back looks sick.
that looks fire, actually.
The front... okay.
For the audio listeners, the back has blue. And it's actually kind of giving it an even more of a Mario look. But yeah, anyway.
Ooh,
first sponsor
with the Animal Crossing, it looks good, though.
Yeah, it does. First sponsor of the show, a longtime supporter of both Bob and my content. We can't thank Satisfye enough for being with us on our personal journeys, but also now our joint podcast journey. And if you want to thank them as well, there's no better time to go to Satisfye.com and use code Nontendo. Who's going to be the first to use the new code? It could be you. 5% off at checkout. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, everything all right. A little bit sleepy because I'm in London, but everything okay.
Like 11 o'clock for you, I think?
Yeah, and it's the end of the week. But that's all right.
Of course. Thank you so much. Whereabouts are you? You're in Paris? Somewhere
London.
Around?
No, in London. I'm French, but
really?
I live in London. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to visit London. So this is the creative director, Arno, for, how do you pronounce Neriel?
Yeah.
Yes, and you're currently working on, or getting, you've worked on, because it launches on Switch soon, Card Shark.
June 2nd, right?
Yeah, June the 2nd. Yeah, I'm based in London, but we are like a European team. So we are between Paris, Scotland, and England at the moment, and Spain. So yeah, it's definitely a European team. Mm-hmm.
And this is a side note, but I just noticed your shirt. That's the Minute. That's another indie game, right?
Mm-hmm. Also signed by Devolver. Like, I'm a big fan of this game. Like, it's really cool, very simple and funny.
Mm-hmm. So we really appreciate having you on. It means a lot to us that you made the time. We're making an episode right now all about indies on the Switch. Indies are something that I really care about. I've built a lot of my YouTube channel off of talking and sharing the love of indie games. And a big thing that we're kind of focusing on is, the Indie World Directs that Nintendo put on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. There was a recent one. I kind of have this perception that I see online after one gets released. There's always, I feel like always a negative reaction, a big negative side, where people will say that like the indie world or whatever kind of sucked, like it wasn't good, it was bad. And usually it's because they didn't get to see something like Silksong, for example, or the one big game they were hoping to see. Is that a perception that you have also seen when you look at the response to an indie world, maybe one specifically that you're in, where the online perception seems pretty rough?
I understand what you said, but at the same time, to be indie is a choice. And if I decided to go indie and make indie games, to be an outsider. I'm not trying to make mainstream game we please necessarily everyone, but I make, especially with Card Shark, it's true. But before I've been working on Pikuniku, I've been working on Reigns, who are not game who are mainstream. But that's why people who like indie games will like. So if you are expecting mainstream games from Nintendo Direct, of course you will be upsetted. After I can understand that they got a lot of hype for certain games and they are hoping it will be released and there is some deception. But I think in general the people are really excited by Nintendo world. Like they really expect this moment. They really like it. So maybe they got too big expectation. This is possible.
That is an awesome answer. You're just like,
did it. Yeah.
I wanted. We're not trying to please everybody. You're just trying to make a good game that people who are interested in this type of game will like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's essentially what we're trying to break down in this. Well, what I wanted to break down in this episode is, they're indies. They're not mainstream. That's the point. They're not for everyone. So if you go in with an expectation, which a lot of people seem to do, you're probably going to get disappointed. I think what bothers me the most with people that have that reaction, though, is it's people that maybe aren't willing to give indies a shot because they don't have those big name reputations, or they don't have those big studios that they know and they love and they've heard of and they've played a billion games from. When if you actually sit down and try one of these games, you might end up falling in love with it. And that's something I've definitely experienced reviewing and talking about so many indie games. And I'm doing it right now. I got a code for Card Shark a couple days ago, and I started playing it last night. And I love card games. I always have. So I went in not really knowing what to expect from it, but knowing that I loved card games. And what you're doing with that game is something so unique and different that I haven't experienced before. A lot of it is like card manipulation tricks and teaching you how to do these tricks, but also with like quirky ways of controlling them with the Joy-Cons and all of that. And then on top of that, you have this story built around it with mystery and intrigue and death and a ton of other things going into it too. How do you get an idea for a game like that? Where did you come up with that?
So the process to make a game, it's relatively long when you're doing the games because but at least like the way I work, I'm not trying to reproduce something already exists. Like all of the game I try to work try to be unique, and most of the time it starts from a very simple concept. So the Card Shark, the idea is like a fantasy about being a con artist or being the assistant of a con artist. It's something simple, but after when you start thinking about how to play it gets very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And at Card Shark, you never actually play game. The only thing you do is cheating people with cards. So the cards become a tool. So I'm the game designer, one of the game designer in Card Shark. And the very difficult thing was to take something with purely analogic, and make it fun. How do you make this fun? Because it is tricky, but it's a very exciting question. So the way we work is in team, and we spend at least the first year thinking about the story, and in parallel thinking about the game design. And the first year is mainly ideation. Like we try together, we try to put to define where the fun will be and the main plot. And after we go in production, and after we do a lot of playtest because it's weird. And one of the problems we had with Card Shark was actually to make understand to our publisher that, okay, it was going to be a good game. So this is the first difficulty. But the difficulty after for developer is to actually sell the game to people. And you don't go inside a box. You cannot say it's a card game. You cannot say it's an adventure game. You cannot say it's an action game. Because what it is really a con artist fantasy. It's a con artist simulator. So it's his own genre, kind of.
And it does feel like its own genre. 1 second you're exploring and talking to people, and the next you're trying to trick them. It's
I've only seen the trailers, but it looks like it doesn't look like a card game. The most card game part of it is that you see the cards in the people's hands, but it looks like there's people getting stabbed, there's people getting shot. It's like it's not to call it a card game is a disservice.
And what we did for this game, to reply to one of your questions before, is we did a demo. And it's the first time since I do video games and I decided to go with a demo. And the reason to use a demo, then people can download now Nintendo Store. It's because it's so hard to explain what the game is, that I prefer the player to play it, they try. If they like it, great. If they don't, they don't. But they can give it a shot. And it reminds me, like when I was a kid, there was a lot of demo for games. Like there was your CD-ROM and you got like 100 of game on it, and it was great. I really love this era when you could try things before buying it. So and Nintendo allows to do that, and it's great.
What's it like making a demo for the eShop? Is there any sort of regulations that Nintendo has for making a demo?
There is no really regulation, but if you talk with other game developers, they will tell you keep it short. You need to go straight to the point, and a lot of rules like that. And I don't really believe there is general rules when you make games. You need to make a demo who actually fit the game you are doing. So the demo for Karchak is super long. Like it's like 2.5 hours, I think.
I love that. I love it when people do that, because I always want to try a game before I, pick it up. And I've seen a lot of eShop. I mean, there's not a lot of eShop demos, but some of them are like up to 2 hours long, and that's kind of crazy to see that.
And then with some of them too, you can play the demo, buy the game, and have your progression carry over and just keep playing the game, which is nice.
I love that.
Yeah, Karchak will do that. Like people who play the demo, they will not have to replay everything from the beginning, because I really don't like that as a player.
That is awesome.
I was going to say as well, because the start of Card Shark is perfect for getting people into it anyway, because that's even that initial opening sequence where you're trying to pour the wine carefully and not overfill it while peeking at the cards and seeing how many cards are in their hand. That is such a perfect setup for the rest of the game and being like, okay, I want to keep playing this now.
Is what we try to do, and I really hope the player expectation will match. Like when they play the demo, they will not have a deception after playing the full game, and it's what I'm trying to do really. Like I'm trying to make games that I will like myself to play, and then I actually like playing. And I think if it pleases myself, hopefully it will please others.
Do you I don't know how to phrase this, but what's it like working with Nintendo and putting games onto the console? Is it a pretty smooth system, or is it more complicated than something like Steam or PlayStation?
It's actually relatively simple, and the only difference with Steam is there is a certification process. So with Steam, you can just upload your build, and it will be live like straight away. Like nobody really check what you push on Steam. Nintendo actually check if the game work. They do test the game, so there is kind of a quality behind it, and I think it's great. It's just like when you are a developer, it's a little bit stressful, because when you know there is a bug and you want to push a hotfix, it's impossible to do it in the same day. You will have to go through this process and wait 4 or 5 days to push a patch. But that's okay. I think it's much better than if you try to do something on for PlayStation, for example. The process will be much more complicated.
Does PlayStation and Xbox have like a worse certification system? Do they check things harsher than Nintendo, or is it the opposite?
It's not necessarily worse. It's just different and more complex, I think, for PlayStation. Nintendo, they do work very well. It was a little bit slower when there was a pandemic, like when it was really bad. But now they get back with a normal rhythm, and in 5 days you can go through certification. So I think it is good. Like we cannot complain. It's not like in the 90s when people were forced to do games for console in a cartridge. Like imagine making a game for Mega Drive, and you push it and you figure out there is a bug. So there was no way to fix it.
You have to get it. You have to go house to house and grab all the cartridges back.
Yes, exactly. I think we are very lucky now to make games. It's very easy. Easy. It's much more. It's simpler than before, I guess.
So Nintendo plays and tests every single game that goes on the eShop?
I'm not sure they play it from A to Z, but I know they do test it.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they ask a lot of questions. And I'm not doing it myself, so I cannot go too much into the detail. But they
Yeah, yeah,
ask
yeah.
questions for the rating and all this, like if there is violence in your game and blah blah blah. But also they test if the game crash and if it runs properly, like this kind of things on the console.
You
So
would
they do
probably
have a certification.
you would probably have had to
I-
have said yes to the violence for Card Shark, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yes, we do, and but at the same time, the rating system. I know in Australia it's very difficult. Your rating system is not an easy one, but in the one at least in the UK, we don't have like graphic violence, for example, in the
That's
game.
true,
There is
yeah.
a murder, but there is no blood. There is no, but there is depiction of suicide and things like that. So it is not like for I don't know the rating exactly, but we do on top of the rating when people start the game, we do tell them what they will encounter in the game.
All right, well, I think that's about all the questions I had. What about you, Bob?
I think we're good. The demo's out right now. Anybody can play it right now in the eShop.
Yeah, and it will be out a full game next week, so it's exciting.
Uh-huh.
And
Hey,
yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me, and
no problem,
I
man.
hope to talk to you soon or listen to what you do soon. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks-
and that's
thanks for coming.
Card Shark on the eShop. I'm playing it and I really like it, so you guys should check it out as well.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye
man.
bye.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Ciao, ciao.
You guys have never met, right?
No, I've seen you around though.
this
I think
is
you're
Celia.
friends with a lot of my friends. Obviously, Bob being one. So
Who's Bob?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I feel like we have like similar circles, but yeah, it's nice to meet you. I've
Yeah, you
emailed with your manager a few times.
Oh, really?
I think he hates me.
Wait,
'Cause I'll be
who's
like,
who's my manager? Paul?
I don't know. I have to check my email, but every time I try to send you keys, he's like, "Oh, you want to pay?" And I'm like, "No." And then I email you again the
Oh.
keys.
Okay. First up, okay, he's doing a fantastic job. Second, just message me directly.
I don't know. I don't think I have your.
You don't follow me on Twitter?
I can now.
You do it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh, this is how he gets so many followers. He just tells people to follow.
Hey man, it's working, right?
He said to me, "Can you tell Wood to look at his email?"
Yeah, I have.
Oh, really?
No, it's because he'll like respond and like I bet he's a really sweet and amazing guy, but like my marketing budget is like 5 peanut M&Ms, so I can't.
If
pay
you're
for
trying to
videos.
give me game codes, I'll take them. I don't charge for that. I don't know why he's trying to get money out of you. I guess that's just his job. But no, just message me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Message me.
Celia, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. This is Wood. You are
Hi.
just meeting for the first time.
I would.
You just
Nice to
followed me on
meet you.
Twitter finally. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're best friends
been
now.
waiting. So you're what is your official title at Yacht Club?
Depends who I'm talking to.
You're
But
talking to
each-
Bob and Wood right now.
Yeah.
Oh well then. Really, I am. So I am the marketing manager for Yacht Club Games, but I also handle PR, community, and licensing.
Okay. And what games have you shipped with them so far?
Cyber Shadow and Shovel Knight
Hell
Pocket
yeah.
Dungeon.
Oh, and you just you're doing Mina the Hollower. That's your new big thing, right? That's the last thing that you guys announced, right?
Yeah, that's the most recent thing we've announced, and we're currently working on Pocket Dungeon DLC and Shovel Knight Dig.
So like,
Yeah, Shovel Knight Dig.
we're getting codes for those, right?
Yeah, in your Twitter, Twitter DMs.
Nice.
You might have an email for the Mina the Hollower demo. It might be sitting in an email right now that you just haven't looked at.
It probably is.
Yeah, before we went live, apparently I found out that you were trying to tell Bob to get me to check my emails, but I don't think Bob ever told me.
Rude.
For Mina the Hollower, I definitely did.
I'll need
It
to
works
see
on
proof.
Steam Deck.
Oh,
Demo
it
works on
does?
Steam
Oh, you
Deck.
got me sold.
Yeah. Not many people. Do you know how many people got the Mina the Hollower demo?
Whew. In total, maybe 50 people at most,
Wow.
including
Damn,
people
well,
testing it and playing.
49
so
and
not,
me.
Not a lot. Yeah, basically.
A wasted one on Wood over there. So we wanted to make this episode about I guess loosely about working with Nintendo, but more so about the indie announcements that they've been making, and how after almost every single indie announcement, people are disappointed because I guess the one game that they've been waiting for wasn't in it. What are some of the reactions you guys have seen from being involved in some of the Nintendo announcements? Or I guess the Mina the Hollower one that you guys did, I guess most recently, you did it on your own. You didn't even do it in an indie world or anything.
We actually did it in our own Yacht Club Games Presents.
Wow.
I know, look at us. It's actually our third one. I think.
Honestly, with the reaction people have to indie world sometimes, you might be better off that way.
Yeah, true.
It's like, we've had positive experiences, but honestly, everyone's just really excited about like a particular game that they want to see. And like, I totally get that because like I have like my own personal wish list. It just, I wish the audience was a bit more open-hearted to like anything and everything that
So you have seen that reaction then, like I'd say specifically with like indie worlds where people kind of watch the live streams and the tens of thousands hoping to see something, and then the reaction can be quite negative if you actually experienced that.
Depends. Some people are like, yeah, Pocket Dungeon, for example. They're like, where's Shovel Knight Dig? Or, oh, are you guys adding to Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, the game that you finished in 2019? So it's literally one of those things that, everyone has their wish list. Some people want to see a Smash reveal in the indie showcase. I don't know why, but they're hoping. They're like Halo for Switch. I don't know.
Yeah, I have noticed that. People want some outlandish reveals in an indie direct.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my Waluigi goes to the grocery store game. One day I'll get it, but we'll see.
I'm still waiting for Waluigi in Smash, so...
I know,
just... Wow. Wait until the next freaking Smash. So do we have any release dates on anything for like Dig or anything? You guys have had, I think it was... You have a lot of games that you announced a while ago that have just been in development for, it seems like, years now. And I guess that's what people are waiting for. So you have Dig, and what else do you have? That's, I guess, Mina the Hollower.
So we have Shovel Knight Dig, Mina the Hollower, we have Pocket Dungeons DLC, and we have internal project that I cannot mention.
Project?
Woo, mention it.
Internal project that I cannot mention. Wow, that's really cool. I'm so
this goes out in a week. Can you mention it before that?
Nope.
If it's Shovel Knight 2, blink.
Wow.
Okay, well, she has some stern eyes right there.
Wow.
My eyes are really watering because of the light. And I was like, oh God. Horrible timing. But yeah, no, it's not that.
Do you see a lot of reaction? Do you see a lot of reaction from people waiting for a true sequel for Shovel Knight? Like when the Mina the Hollower was announced, for example, did you see a lot of people were like, it's not Shovel Knight 2. I don't want anything to do with this.
No, I think people were pretty stoked. Mina looks really sick. So
I've only seen positive reactions.
Yeah, because that's how it should be. It's so cool. It's like Castlevania, like top-down Castlevania mixed with Link's Awakening and everything I love about like the Game Boy era of games. I'm a huge Game Boy fan, so I can like rant about how much I love Mina later on. But yeah, I think like when we initially announced that we had a surprise announcement with G4, people were like Shovel Knight 2, or like they were coming up with different theories of like different campaigns we could announce, which all would have been cool. So I'm glad we delightfully surprised them with Mina.
Right.
A question that I wanted to ask, sorry, Bob.
No, go ahead.
With your experience working with Yacht and indies in general, with the Switch specifically, what's that ecosystem been like as far as like indies growing on Switch, those games finding a new audience on Switch, the sales on Switch? Like, what's the whole ecosystem like there? Has it been really supportive and helpful?
It has been really, really great with indies. And I say this from personal experience and what I've heard from my developer friends. They're so supportive with it, and they're pretty hands-on from my experience. And there's tons of different opportunities out there for it. Like, I can't talk about too much, obviously, because it's shrouded in secrets. But what I can say is that they've been like super hands-on and really friendly. And also, I really enjoy playing indies on my Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
I finally
absolutely.
have one, so I can do that. Yeah, so I think it fosters a really great environment. For Shovel Knight, we were one of the launch titles with Spectre of Torment.
Oh yeah, true.
So yeah, we had a great launch point to go onto the Switch. So things are good for us. We really like it. Thanks, Nintendo.
You were one of the launch titles? One of the 7 launch titles on the Switch?
I don't know if we were one of the 7, but I know that we were like in the very beginning.
Yeah, I think it was the first couple months
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Shovel Knight came out on the 3DS. That's where I played it.
Yeah, initially came out on Steam, but then it went on with 3DS and Wii U, and then like every other non-Nintendo
I think it's
platform.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty clear that Nintendo, more than anyone, go out of their way to support indies. I mean, even like taking the Indie World, literally a event that they host and put all the work and effort into just to highlight indies. But I mean, like, what other company or system or brand or whatever really supports indies as much as Nintendo does? No one, right?
Yeah, like the other platforms do provide some love and care. Like,
yeah.
I really appreciate.
Not to discredit what any platform would do.
We want you to make enemies today.
No.
Yeah.
Everyone loves indies, and indies have really taken over. And like, if you don't support it, you're dumb. But Nintendo goes the extra mile.
Yeah, they really like. I don't know, they bring us like, I don't know, they're the best. I was gonna be like, they love and care, like they raise us and, put us out in the world. But yeah, they're really kind, and having a specific showcase, like focus on indies, is really kind too, to help get the word out. They're cool. Thanks, Nintendo.
Now, what do you hate about Nintendo?
Oh, well, no, of course.
What was the decision to make the announcement on your own then, as opposed to waiting for a big
That's a good question, yeah.
collage of other indies to be shoved in with?
Well, we had a lot of announcements to make. It sounds like we didn't want them to have like a Yacht Club Games show. They're like, welcome to the Indie Direct. And here's Yacht Club Games with like 8 announcements and like a bunch of high fives. So obviously we didn't want to monopolize their time. And like there's tons of different indies out there that want to get that spotlight. So we figured that possibly having an opportunity where we would just go ahead and announce ourselves might make sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
And then we've also had Yacht Club Games Presents before. Like the one prior was in 2020. It was like right before, or 2019. I don't remember exactly because I didn't work for the company yet. But we had like hinted at Mina in that one. And like we had announced some like, it was the last update for like Shovel Knight Treasure Trove when we announced Digging It. So like we've done that in the past as well.
It ended up being a big enough announcement that you were happy with the reaction you guys got with the Mina the Hollower announcement, right? I mean, you hit your goal on Kickstarter within a week or something ridiculous?
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh, within 8 hours. So we
8 hours?
Well, I was like under. I wasn't okay. So it was within the time period. I did not check how high I was going. I was focused on like handling social media and like answering questions. So within 8 hours, when I checked, we were overfunded. Our initial goal amount was $311,503. And you're like, whoa, Celia, that's like a really oddly specific number. It's because it's $1 more than what we raised for the Shovel Knight campaign.
Wow.
We decided $1 more because of inflation, because that's how it works. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so for that, we ended up raising, it was like $1.2 million for the campaign. And we're really excited to share this journey with the community.
Now, what are the chances that there will be a public demo for Mina the Hollower so that everybody at home can get a chance to play it?
You know, I heard the Card Shark devs were doing a demo for their game. So I was just wondering if, why would you not when they're being that nice, you know?
We typically do not release demos, like historically. So I think that's more of like our focus on things. And Celia Bee, it's gonna be awesome. So I would say keep an eye out for when it does eventually come out. It's gonna be well worth the wait.
What is the reason for not releasing a demo? Do you think people are gonna like data mine it, or do you want to just focus on making it as polished as possible before it's released?
Or maybe just the game is so popular, maybe you feel like you don't need to.
Say Bob's second suggestion. I think that one's the good one.
No, I think it's as polished as possible.
I pick option B, please. So for it, it's one of those things of where we'd rather focus on making the game as best as possible than focusing on making a demo. The thing is, though, is like we had made a demo for, the announcing of the Kickstarter. And the reason that we had picked like select people like, oh, check this out, is because A, we've worked with you before, so we know, or, we know that you're capable of like, having the correct hardware to play the game on. But also so we don't have to troubleshoot like the demo, because the demo was buggy. And so it was one of those things where we don't want to take time from actually developing the game. We just want to be able to show proof of concept of, hey, this is something amazing that we're going to create.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing goes with the demo, because we put so much effort into everything we make, to like the tiniest pixel detail into our games. So it's like, oh wow, would you rather us hyper focus on a demo or hyper focus on the game? Like, let me know.
Yeah, that's fair, and also really interesting because I was kidding about the Card Shark dev who we did just speak to, but it's interesting hearing the different approaches and mentality behind doing even something as simple as a demo. Not that a demo is simple, but in perspective to the entire build or anything like that. It's really interesting.
I was gonna say you should probably talk about the games you got coming out, like Mina the Hollower, because people don't know what that is. Probably who are watching this.
Yeah, so check out minathehollower.com. It routes you to the Yacht Club Games website, which gives a lot of really fun facts about the game. But in short, it's one of the newest games in our development. It's from like the Game Boy era, like I guess kind of style, if you would compare Shovel Knight to the NES era. It's a top-down, I guess the way you can describe it is like a top-down action-adventure game with a little bit of platforming. There's some RPG elements to it. It's currently very deep in development. Like, people were commenting when they saw the trailer. They're like, oh, the game looks done. It's like, that's all we have, guys.
Playing the demo, it feels like it's done. It feels like at least that slice is like ready to go.
Yeah, that little tiny bit of game, yeah, sure. But the thing is about Yacht Club Games is that we put our heart into everything. And I would say even our Achilles heel is figuring out when to put the creative pen down. So there's going to be so much fun things in the game besides the actual adventure. I can't say too much, even though I'm excited to. It's going to be really, really fun and a little bit darker than our usual titles.
So you're not allowed to say that the game is like a top-down Castlevania style?
If you were to compare it to other games that took some inspirations, like how Shovel Knight took inspirations from like games like Mega Man and DuckTales, and even some like Souls aspects to it, I would say if you were taking inspirations, Mina the Hollower is a top-down Castlevania with some Link's Awakening and Bloodborne.
That doesn't get people to play it. I honestly don't know what will.
I don't know. Really cool.
And so which comes out first, Dig or Mina the Hollower?
Definitely Dig. So we're nearing the end of development for Shovel Knight Dig. So we'll have some like announcements about it really, really soon. Once the team gives me the thumbs up, I'll just be like pouring Shovel Knight Dig content everywhere. So stay tuned for that. Shovel Knight Dig is the next adventure in the Shovel Knight universe, starring Shovel Knight and a colorful cast of characters. You might see a few that you recognize.
You're too good at your job. I don't like it. Make me feel bad.
I'm really genuinely like having fun with the game. I was like playing through some of it, and there's a lot of really fun surprises that I'm excited to share with you guys. But the cool thing about Shovel Knight Dig is you actually dig in it, which is actually the first time. People would always ask, and it's like, well, now we finally have a game where Shovel Knight digs in, because he digs down and he digs left and right. So you have a lot of options there, depending on what you want to do.
I played a demo at PAX a really long time ago. I want to say it might have even been 2018. It was either 2018 or 19, but it was a really long time ago that I played that demo. And it was with Pocket Dungeon. Yacht Club had both of them at PAX, and it was great. It was awesome. So I'm waiting. I'm sitting on my hands waiting for some more Yacht Club
I'll look
content.
out for the Twitter DM to ping with my code.
Good. I'll tell Bob to remind you, and then he'll casually not remind you.
Right. Yep.
That's usually how it works.
Anyway, I think we're good, right?
Yeah, no, that was fantastic.
Celia, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Handsome as ever.
I was gonna say very handsome. Also, hello.
Hi. Great to meet you, man.
Nah, yeah, you too. Hey, you and Bob known each other for a while. He talks about you like your best friend.
I literally met him like a month ago.
Wait, where? Oh, PAX. Right.
PAX. Yeah, PAX.
Mm-hmm.
We're recording already, so I guess we'll just freaking go.
Yeah, that was a good.
I mean, we go back a long way. Long way.
Tell me some stories of Bob from back in the day.
God. I remember when he was a wee young one. Tall, bearded, long hair.
Oh, wow. That's him.
8 years old.
Hasn't changed.
Beard down to my nipples.
Still guzzling coffee, I'm sure, by the bucket.
By the jugload.
All right, Bob, open it up.
All right. Liam, how you doing? What's your official title on Cursed to Golf? That's the game.
My official title is director. I am the creator and director of Cursed to Golf.
Well, wait, hold on.
On this game.
Hold on, 2 seconds. What was that accent?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be confusing, right? I've convinced Australians before that I'm Australian and I'm not Australian. But then I get shit from British people because I'm British, but I don't sound British.
Oh, you're British. Oh, okay. You sound Australian.
Yeah, and like here in Japan, English people think I'm American, and I'm not American, and Americans don't think I'm American.
So wait, you're British, you sound Australian, and you live in Japan?
Yes.
Oh, that's very confusing.
I remember there was a video last year for one of the promotional things for Costa Golf, and I was in it, and I think is it Alana Pierce? I think her name is.
Yeah.
And she obviously is Australian, right? And she's watching it, and she's like, "Where the fuck are you from? Like, what is that accent?" And we tweeted at her saying I'm actually British, and she kind of lost her mind a little bit. So that was a good time. Yeah, my accent's just all over the place. I've just been in too many places. I don't even know myself.
I feel a lot better because I could not figure it out either. I was like, I think he's Australian.
Yeah, I thought you were for it. I can hear the British now, but I definitely thought Australian. Alana Pierce is all the way Australian. She's very Aussie.
And I somehow convinced her as well that I might be Australian. So, which is, I think I just have like this weird podcast side to me because I did podcasting for a long time as well. And then it felt like being in Japan where you have to kind of over enunciate a lot to sometimes speak to Japanese people in English. You know, you have to really be clear and over enunciate. And then in podcasting as well, kind of similar. You have to sort of be a lot clearer. I don't know about you guys. You just winging it, whatever. But
I just wing through.
Definitely
life.
winging
it. Yeah, just wing it. And yeah, so now I just have this really fucked up accent. Sorry, can I swear?
No, Bob swears. Bob swears. It's fine. You're
okay,
good.
Sorry,
You're good.
apologies. I didn't want somebody there just manually bleeping everything.
So how long have you been working on Curses to Golf?
I guess officially, coming up to about 2 years since I started prototyping. So when Corona hit and we were all really bored and we had a lot of free time on our hands, even here in Japan, we sort of were in a bit of a pseudo lockdown and we couldn't really do anything. So I just started tinkering around again. I was working at a different company called Q Games at the time. And I just started messing around with this idea I had based around a physics roguelike. And I started prototyping it. And then I made the first version of it, which was released on itch.io. And then some publishers picked it up and were like, hey, you were interested in making a bigger version of this? And a guy called Ed Valiente, who used to work for Nintendo of Europe, actually reached out and was like, this is a Nintendo game in disguise. You should come make this for Thunderful. And so that's how that started.
That's a weirdly high compliment.
Yeah, it was. And it was like, for me as a complete Nintendo fanboy, it was like,
oh, wow.
Okay, well, we'll go with you.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Is Ed Valiente the Star Fox guy?
No. So Ed
That's
is
Giles Goddard.
That's Giles Goddard. That's our CEO at Chuhai. Yeah. So we have good old Giles.
Wait, what do you mean?
So how did you get involved with Chuhai then?
So this is to answer both those questions. So Chuhai Labs is currently the former studio of Vitae Backroom. So Vitae Backroom used to be a Nintendo sort of pseudo second party, and they made games like Steel Diver, and Tank Troopers and stuff. And it's run by our lovely CEO Giles Goddard, who is formerly the programmer on Star Fox with Dylan Cuthbert, who is my ex-boss at Q Games. So I've been with both the Star Fox men through thick and thin.
You should say you've been with both the Star Fox men?
Yep. Through thick and thin. So yeah, and then what happened was, so Ed, the scout at Thunderful at the time, he was like, hey, you need to put a team together because we're going to make this thing and I'm going to give you a load of money and we're going to do this to make the version of Costa Golf that you know now. So I needed help building a team. And one of my dear colleagues from Q, a guy called Mark, who, Bob, you met at PAX, he was like, hey, come to Chuhai. We'll build a team at Chuhai and we'll do it over here. And then we did. And we went over, and I think it was last year, January. So 2021, January, went over and we built a team. We got best pixel artist. I built like a dream team of people who I admired from Twitter. So we got John Davies, who's our incredible pixel artist. And we got Mark Sparling, who is the musician for A Short Hike, who I was just a
Oh,
massive
I really
fan
like
of.
that game.
Yeah, so I built like this real great dream team of people, and we've been making Coaster Golf since January of last year.
Wow.
Yeah, and now we're getting
music
ready.
is kind of insane. Like when you start
Yeah.
a level in Curse to Golf, it's like this crazy like jazzy drum solo. It sounds like
Yeah.
at the end of a rock band song where you're just doing the big rock finish, but it's leading into the course. It's like insane.
Well, the
It's
music,
like
way
the
overkill,
music for
but it's
Short Hike
awesome.
was really good as well. In that game, you're like
Yeah.
climbing a mountain, and there's a lot of like crescendos and like mountain, and you could really feel it.
He's just an absolute wizard. Like he always delivers on time. He like over delivers, and it's always amazing. And we're just always astounded by like what he turns up with. Recently, we asked him for like a jazzy elevator kind of thing, but themed around hell. And what he came back with was just like oh my god, it's like exactly what you envision in your mind when you think of something like that. And you're like, yep. He just knew what was in my head.
To give a quick shout out to someone that Bob and I know called Eric, we actually, I don't know, you will have to, did you hear the theme song for our show? The real jazzy, you said you checked out the episode. I'll send it to you if you didn't catch it.
I did. Was it in the first episode?
Yeah, it's a full
it was the
jazz
jazz
band
band.
number.
Cool.
We were like,
Oh,
we want to capture the essence of like a Mario 3D World game. And he's just one guy, and he put this whole thing together, played every instrument, paid a guy to play the sax, but kind of gave him the vibe. And we have this big jazz band musical, which sounds way overproduced for our show. But it's
Nice.
so cool.
that's the thing. Just like over egg it, just completely go for it. I remember my brief to Mark in the beginning was just like, let's make Mario Golf crossed with Castlevania. They're like whatever like that sound is, you can make it and just do that. And yeah, and then it spawned off into, he sort of made all these different things, and we have the different areas of the game, so they took their own themes beyond that kind of Mario Golf cross Castlevania thing. But that kind of drum thing, like the jazzy drum intros to the holes and stuff, is entirely inspired by like old Konami golf games and like Neo Turf Masters. We just wanted to capture that kind of retro golf thing where for some reason golf has absolutely banging music like in the past. Like Neo Turf Masters, if you've never listened to that soundtrack, it's incredible. It's so good. So we just try to capture that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well-
so we're interested for this podcast. We were supposed to be talking about
Yeah, we got carried
Indy's
away.
relationship with Nintendo and the reaction from some of the Indie World events. You were in, I think, the tail end of the last Indie World, right? You were in like the little montage at the end.
Yeah.
What was the sort of reaction you saw from people from that?
It was, it's funny actually because one of our main goals for Coaster Golf the entire time was to keep on that sort of, this game is like to us, it's kind of like now people know about it and now people have played it and we feel a bit more secure about people maybe liking it. Our thing is that it was like a Super Nintendo game that got lost somewhere, right? Like it's like an old retro Super Nintendo game that just existed but never got played. So for us, and being a studio that has history with Nintendo in the past, our entire thing was to keep that train sort of going. And very early on, we made the decision that one of the goals was to be in a direct or an indie direct or something. And like we were not really going to budge until we got that. So we pushed very hard from the very, very beginning. Like I remember we had an actual meeting with some of the Nintendo people where we just had literally the title screen and it said TBA Golf because we had no idea what the name was going to be yet. We weren't sure if we could use Curse to Golf. So we called it TBA Golf, to be announced golf, based on PGA golf. And like, we just had a title screen, and Nintendo must have thought we were crazy. Like the people over at Nintendo America thought we must have been mad because all we had was a title screen. And like, we just, we have experience and stuff. So we knew we'd have a product, but we were just super overly ambitious. And we wanted them to know that, hey, look, the developments are going to be short on this project, and there are only a couple of Nintendo Directs a year or an Indie World a year. So we wanted to make sure that they knew that we existed and we were around. So very early on, we wanted to be in it. But we kind of lost hope a little bit towards the end because nothing was coming up, and then Thunderful had mentioned to us that we were potentially going to be in what they call a sizzle reel. Which is better than nothing. Right?
Yes, it's better. Marginally, yes.
It makes sense. And it kind of worked out because what has been very strange off the back of this Indie World Direct was the reaction. I generally, because I watch every direct, you know, having since the beginning of time, right? That this one was really bad. Like everyone's general opinion was that this was a really
that's
bad.
why we're making this whole episode.
I was going to say, because I feel like Bob didn't lead you in with the information that that's what this is about, and the fact that you brought it up really nails home the whole thing that we wanted to talk about. Please continue.
Which is really strange to me as an indie developer. I don't really know. You know, other games are other games, and as a fan, like they're cool indies to me as well. But it was really strange to see the reaction. Like this was not a really good one. But from a personal standpoint, and our team, everyone was like that we went through for the most part was like, oh, that sucked, but. Gumbrella, which is our boys at Doinksoft, and Curse to Golf are like these standouts. So it was kind of this weird double-edged of like, oh, cool, we were a part of like what is considered the worst indie direct ever, and also, but thankfully we're one of the good highlights. I'm not really sure.
So how do you feel about that as an indie dev that has worked on this game? Obviously, take your game and your experience, I guess, isolated aside because you had a good one.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about all these other indie devs coming out showing their games? And I'm sure you can agree most of them looked pretty solid. Yeah. And then to have everyone just say that sucks, this is bad. What's your take on that? Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel sad for the reasons why people feel. One, I feel sad for people who are disappointed because, you know, you wait for indie directs or Nintendo directs all year. I think one of the things that Nintendo directs will always have a problem with is like the expectation is through the roof every single time, and people are not able to temper those expectations regardless. Like it's always either going to be like you got a Nintendo Direct, therefore Zelda 2 is going to be there, or you're going to have an indie direct and you're going to have Hollow Knight is going to be there. And those expectations they're always going to be there. So you have to put aside those as a consumer and think, well, you know, even if they are there, they're not going to be the entire show. They might be a significant portion. There's going to be a lot of other things. I think if a Nintendo Direct doesn't have like one certified banger, let's say like a Hollow Knight or something of that caliber, it's always going to be disappointed to people regardless of what the other games were. Like, you know, Aggro Crab's new game, that Crab roguelike looks dope as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can imagine that game coming out doing well, and then the next time they're making a sequel, that might be the next Hollow Knight.
Oh, 100%. I agree, right? Yes.
So people just don't really know what they want yet, but they have expectations about what they do want. So it's kind of tough in those situations. And at the end of the day, every indie in that sequence is subjected to Nintendo's, you know, rules and stipulations. Like we don't see the video. We're not allowed to know what other games are going to be in that. It's completely strictly confidential. We just know we're in it and it's going to happen. You don't know what date it is. You have no idea. Obviously for various reasons like leaking and stuff like that. But so you don't know what the video is going to be. Maybe the publisher do, but we don't. So we just know we're going to turn up. So when you watch the video, when I'm watching the video, like I don't know when Curse to Golf is going to appear. I don't know what's happening. So the structure of the video and the way it flows, the way everything's announced, every indie developer in that video had no idea what it was going to be like. So the flow of the video and the way the announcements are, or how long each game gets, nobody knows. Therefore, the video that you watch is maybe part of the problem for some people, right? It doesn't flow very well. Oh, that game was kind of boring, and they went on for a...
Did you know you were going to get the sizzle reel? Did you know that's where you were going to be?
We knew we were going to, because we know how much footage we have to provide, and we know it's going to be like...
I was going to say, you didn't have to like do an interview or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, it's like it could be at the front, the middle, the ends. I must admit, if you end a video on a sizzle reel, you're gonna annoy people.
Yeah.
If you don't have something at the end after that, regardless. What was nice is, it's always nice to have comments where people are like, why didn't they had this game in a sizzle reel? Why didn't they show that for like 5 minutes or have that as an explain? Like, all we can do as indie devs is take the feedback about that moment in the video and what people thought of what the game was. There's some amazing, great games in there. And as an indie dev, you're looking at like, not the competition, but you're looking at like why sometimes you take the feedback of like, why were certain games shown for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes? Why did that one get an interview and that kind of stuff? You're like, okay, so what do we do in the future to do better to make it so that whatever next game we do, we will get an interview and we will do these things. And if we do get an interview, what are the kind of things that fans and the people watching don't like? Like, do they want it to be funny? Do they want the gameplay? That kind of stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the promotional materials we've done for Coaster Golf, but we kind of do what like Aggro Crab do, which is we try to make it funny. We put our faces at the front. If you look at the very first trailer of the game, it's like me announcing the game, and people were like were receptive to that because
I think
it
that's
was different.
Good.
It was
the face behind it is a good idea.
Yeah, it wasn't just like a standard trailer. It was like us being like, here's us and here's the game. Like, we are a part, like, this game is as much us as it is like its own thing. Like, it's two parts. So we always try to put an identity on it. So I can see maybe why some people don't like that. That's maybe why people didn't like the Aggro Crab thing. But it is kind of interesting to see why people react in certain ways. I personally didn't think it was that bad at all. Like, I get
I thought it was great.
On a sizzle reel. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's the whole reason we're talking about this, is because how could you be so mean to a bunch of indie developers? And these people who already don't have a lot to put into these games. And you know that going into the announcement. You know that these are indie games made by like a team of like
two
just
people,
a handful of people. And you're saying, oh, I didn't like it. That was bad. Like, what were you expecting in the first place?
And I think you brought up an interesting point too, with like they're sitting there watching this indie direct and they watch an indie somewhere in the middle and they're like, oh, that's not Hollow Knight, it sucks. But literally that game could end up blowing up and then the sequel could be the next like Hollow Knight that they're looking for. But it almost seems like there's this barrier in this wall where people want to say they love indies or they enjoy indies because they play Hollow Knight, but they're not willing to give indies as a whole a chance until they've proved themselves and almost until... I
love indies, but only the ones that I like.
Yeah, I like indies, but only the AAA indies in a way. Like,
only the ones that everybody else likes.
It's interesting now because we've gone from like having AAAs and having indies to almost like indies being this own subsection where you have AAA indies. At least they're seen that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We call them AAA, actually. That's kind of what we talk. Yeah,
I've never heard that, and I love that I have that now.
Yeah, we're starting to call them like AAA. Like, games like Hades and Spelunky and Hollow Knight, they cost millions of dollars to make in years. How can that be indie, right? In the sense of like, even to us, like we're on golf, we're only a 5 to 10 person team, depending on what stage of the project we're at. And, our game didn't cost $1 million to make.
Right.
It cost like a significantly less portion of that. But even then, we're fully paid staff members who work in a studio. Like, that's not true indie either. But we all compete on the same stage on Steam under the indie tag. We're all like, how can Coaster Golf sit next to Spelunky when one took 3 years to make and cost millions of dollars?
That is interesting.
And is fantastic versus, Coaster Golf, which took like a year and a half and cost significantly less. And then on Nintendo, it's like games like Aggro Crab, which you look at that game and you're like, that's a fairly sizable team of 10 to 15 people and a couple of $1 million, because we know Kowloon Knights is doing really good things for indies, versus somebody making something that is like a 2-person team who are just making some nice little adventure that they wanted to make themselves. Like, there is such a difficult dichotomy between everybody ranking indies, and even goes as far as Nintendo, right? Not everybody's on the same playing field. Like, Coaster Golf being in the same thing as Hollow Knight is weird, because Hollow Knight really should be in a direct with Zelda.
At this point, yeah, I agree. Yeah. And it might be. I mean,
it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy how people are kind of fanatical about like getting, that next version of that game, but that could happen to any indie that comes out and is really good. So
we were just talking to Yacht Club Games, and
they're the Shovel Knight boys.
Hey, it's all coming together. That's crazy.
They also they're working on Mina the Hollower, and that game's definitely costing a lot of money.
Yeah.
So like, they're not really that much indie anymore either. So and they also talked about how they made the announcement on their own. They didn't even
they have their own presentation now.
Yeah, they did their own thing. That's how big of a deal theirs was.
That's exactly the kind of like we really love those guys. Like Alec is, I'm a fanatic of Alec. He's so smart, and Mina looks amazing. But also the other things that they do off the back of that, sharing all of their statistical breakdowns from like an indie dev standpoint is fantastic for us to see, to try to compare like what financial success looks for like long-term stability, and being realistic that games like Shovel Knight and Mina still cost millions of dollars to make like over a long period of time.
Yeah, they showed all of their like Kickstarter financial breakdown and stuff. That was really interesting.
It's crazy because, that kind of stuff really helps other indie developers to sort of figure out, you can't, like, you can do a Kickstarter and get like $75,000 or something and think you're a success because now you get to make your game for an extra year. But the reality is that long-term stability goes out the window. So indie is really changing. And what those, they're all doing with their announcements and stuff is definitely stuff we look at and we're like, that's the way to do it. Put yourself forward. Really, I think the thing that indie has over other games, and especially you can see it with Nintendo, like when Iwata-san came forward and was like, hey, I'm the guy behind Nintendo. And then Nintendo Direct started and everyone became obsessed with it. That is like the power of what indie developers can do now, and putting themselves forward and being like, hey, look, this is who made those games. Hopefully that means less of like targeting for problems.
I think another good example of that is the guy, I forget his name, the Game Awards hero that what's his name? The Take Two.
It Takes Two guy.
It Takes Two guy. Yeah,
Joseph
I feel
Fares.
I mean, his games were doing well, obviously, and had some recognition from EA and to boost it. But as soon as he got up there and made that character of himself, I feel like the company in general is doing better for it. So yeah, totally, I agree with that.
Yeah, you think of people like Toby Fox, right? Not really like putting himself out there, but he's a character that is tied to the game, right? His identity is as much known as that. It's really interesting, the different kind of things we can do, but how indie is changing, and also how people's perception of how these things are. Like when you expect an indie direct now, I think a lot of Nintendo fans or a lot of indie world fans who are going to watch it expect like AAA style indies. They're going to be looking for the next Hollow Knight, the next Spelunky, the next Undertale. So that means that indies kind of like us, maybe even, people who are making still games in their bedrooms on a budget or whatever, are playing on a bit of a different level. And that means we can kind of ruin the expectation for them sometimes, because they're going to be like, yeah, that game looks good, but it's just a golf game. So you're like, oh, okay. Thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Let me ask a few questions before we close it out. First, why is there no demo on the Switch? Why is it only on Steam right now?
That's actually a funny thing. So one of the things with Nintendo Direct sometimes is that you get offered the slot in a Nintendo Direct if you can provide a demo. And that was something we were going to do, but our slot was not then available to us, and the timing just didn't work out. You also can't really just do it as easy. You can do it on Steam. The thing with platform holders, it's still really difficult. You have to go through a submission process. You have to, pay money to do these things, to get builds up there and have them checked and all that kind of thing. So it's not that easy. Usually when you see demos at the moment, it is through the fact that either it came off a Nintendo Direct or it's from a larger company and they want people to, really give feedback already. Whereas with Steam, it's just uploaded, boom, done, easy. Now we get feedback. It
costs money to submit the demo for the eShop?
Everything costs money to submit, because you're essentially paying a company to check it, right? They have to check it before they put it on their stores and stuff like that. I'm not actually entirely sure what the submission process for demos is on Nintendo Switch, but when you submit games, you have to go through a standards check, a lot check, because if it comes out and your game has like Xbox, button glyphs in it and stuff like that, that's not going to look good on Nintendo. So, somebody has to go through that and check those things. So unfortunately not, but
are certain platforms more strict?
I have it on my real.
Yeah, there you go.
You like the Steam
Are
Deck?
certain platforms more strict on than others for getting your build up on their stores?
Yeah, they all have their pros and cons for sure. I previously used to work for Rockstar Games back in the day. I started in QA, and when we had to do like standards checks for GTA 5, it is like a year's worth of work to check like every loading screen is under 10 seconds, or to make sure certain buttons appear at certain times. Like you have to do all those things, and then when you have like 4 different versions of your game, or now with like a Nintendo Switch build, you have one version of your game that has all the languages, but you know, now you need to make a PlayStation version of that, an Xbox version of that, and Xbox says you can only have these things. PlayStation have things like if you have like a controller mapping screen, it has to be a PlayStation controller. It can't be like a generic controller image. So you have to do all these small little changes, and you know, it's like a big long list of things that you have to knock out, and everybody has like pros and cons for those things.
Right.
It's tough. And yes, Wood, I do like the Steam Deck a lot.
I'm glad you heard that. I wanted the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It has been fantastic to have it, actually.
It's funny, actually, that you showed that, because I made a Steam Deck video recently, and I needed some B-roll, and Bob sent me some B-roll that he had, and the B-roll was him playing Curse to Golf on his Steam Deck. So
I appreciate it, Bob. You took the best photos of my game that I haven't even taken.
I was gonna say, I'm sure people who watch my videos who are watching this are like, "Oh, is he talking about Curse to Golf again?" Because like, I played it like a month ago, and it's already been in 2 videos. It's now in this. So,
thank you. Appreciate it a lot.
I think that's it. I think we're good,
I think you crushed it.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Anything else you want people to know about Curse to Golf? When do we know anything yet about a date or anything? Or window?
No, it's summer. It's still coming summer. We should have some hot news. Yeah, it's getting hot out. Definitely here in Japan. It's 8:30 in the morning, and I'm already hot. It's coming. It's coming. We should have news soon. The actual Steam Next festival is happening next month. So we'll be pushing a nice big update to our demo. Loads of new visual changes and bug fixing and a whole bunch of new stuff. So we'll do that, and then we'll be getting ready to launch. And yeah, if I do my job right, it'll be this summer.
And if you're watching Nintendo, the next Indie World, it needs to be front and center, not in a sizzle reel at the end.
I'm gonna hate the whole thing if I don't see a lot of Curse to Golf.
Golf right here. Yeah, but all those things that we just talked about, all those standards and all those pros and cons and all those things, envision that, and then know what my summer is going to be like. Then you'll realize
fight through all that before we can finally play the game.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly true. Anyway, thank you so much for going.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for waking up early for this.
Absolute pleasure. Good morning from Japan, and have a good time.
I'm so jealous you live in Japan. Okay, bye.
Yes, guys. I'm just gonna disconnect. Is that fine?
You know what's funny, actually, that we didn't even mention?
What?
Also, welcome back, everyone. We didn't even... Should we even mention it? Because I think we're doing a pretty good job at selling it.
I thought you weren't gonna mention it.
I forgot.
I thought about it while we were introing, and I was like, I guess he just doesn't want to talk about it. Okay.
But I feel like I think if we didn't mention it, there would be people that wouldn't even notice.
Definitely. Specifically podcast listeners.
Okay.
So Wood got a face tattoo.
We got to talk about everything we just consumed from our guests, but quickly, we're doing this one remotely. I'm actually on a green screen right now. I kind of feel bad even breaking the illusion, but I tried to catch a flight to go do this with Bob, but my flight got canceled while I was in the airport, so we're just doing it remotely. But I hope you couldn't tell.
I can though, but I'm looking
I
at
can
a
too because
green
you're
background.
a monitor.
It looks crazy from the background.
The funny thing is, we had the guests on, and each guest we had to quickly say, "Don't worry, I know this looks weird, but this is a professional." This looks
very unprofessional and hacked together, but I promise you, it's the number one gaming podcast on Apple Podcasts.
We did tell every guest that, actually.
Did we?
All right. Anyway,
no, we did not.
I want to start with that last guest because that was actually pretty crazy. That I feel like you didn't really lead him in with really what we were wanting to talk about. We didn't really say like the bad reaction and the toxic around that, and he got there naturally. So clearly, it is something that even the devs see after an indie world. That was my whole point. I'm like, guys, these are indie devs, a couple people working on this, and the reaction they're seeing is that sucked.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's stupid. Like, why would you do that to somebody who's one guy working on a game, and you're like, nah, sucks. Try again.
You could not like it. To clarify, you could not like it. But I think it's weird to go online and put it on blast and say it's like, why does it suck? Like, what is your reasoning for it sucking?
That's what was interesting about what Arno said. He just straight up was like, not everyone's gonna like the game, and that's why I like making indie games, because I could just do whatever I want, and if you're interested in the game, you can play it. Not everyone's gonna be interested in this weird card game that's not a card game, but the people who are gonna be interested in it, hopefully they'll like it.
They're gonna be super interested in it. That's the kind of game that gets that hardcore community of people that if you like it, you really like it. It's also, it's frustrating for me as someone who tries as a career to recommend these games for people, because a game like Card Shark is the exact game I know that 99% of people, if you call yourself a gamer, if you love games, you try that game, you'll probably get hooked right away. But I feel like 99% of people don't even understand that they might like it if they tried it, let alone giving it a shot.
There's two other interesting things about all the people. We had a great collection of people, and we just messaged people we knew. We just got random indie devs. We did not plan this out, but we didn't plan this out as good, but it worked out perfectly. Arno made a demo on the eShop so that because he knows this game isn't for everybody, and people need to try it. It's hard to explain to people. So people need to try it in order to make sure that they like it.
To get the idea. Great. And also, I feel like confidence that once you do try it, you'll be hooked. Yeah.
So he made a demo specifically for the eShop. Yacht Club doesn't do demos for some reason.
Yeah.
And Curse to Golf wanted to do a demo, but couldn't put a demo on the Switch for whatever reason.
Yeah,
so we got the whole gamut.
We had 3 very different reactions to that, and we also had 3 very different reactions, I feel, to the indie world, because I feel like Arno is just a legend who doesn't seem to care about anything. He's just making the games.
Yeah, he's like, we're in the indie world, whatever. People like it or they don't, who cares?
And then we had Celia. Sorry? Celia. No, I knew. She did just follow me on Twitter, but we had Celia, who they didn't even do. They weren't in the indie direct because they have their own presentation. Because they
were like, we don't need that. We're too big. We'll do our own.
And then the last reaction was, we just want to be in an indie world so bad. That is our main goal. Sizzle will take it.
Goal was to be in an indie world. So we got the whole gamut of all different types of indie games, all different types of indie developers. Different budgets, different fan followings for all these different. So I mean, from the smallest all the way to the biggest type of indie, we got all those different types of reactions. So
I wanted to get these people on almost to like to use it as a see. This is what I've been trying to tell you guys. But even I learned a ton of things, and I think the most eye-opening thing for me was the different statuses within the genre of indie. And it's something that I'm now thinking about that's actually kind of crazy. It's almost like saying that like every branch of rock music is just generic rock when it's not. There's such different varieties of rock and different popularities in the rock, and it's same with indies. Now indies just have this blanket statement of like how many people are making the game, or is it a AAA publisher, when that bracket is so many things now. Like a Hollow Knight is still seen in that bracket of indie next to a team of 2 people making their first game ever, fresh out of school.
Yeah, or it's like talking about YouTubers, like putting somebody like us in the same category as like a Linus Tech Tips who has like 100 people working for him and gets like you know, like 5 million views a video. Like he's still a YouTuber, but he's in a whole company. You know, you can't group everybody together like that.
So what you're saying is he's the soul-sucking AAA indies, and we are just we're just the little guy, the small guy that you need to support that just gets thrown into a sizzle reel.
We're we're like the middle, you know.
We are the middle. Yeah, we are the middle.
Yeah. There's plenty of indie games that make a comfortable living, but like, you know, they're artists and they'd rather take less money but do stuff that they love. So, and then there's the indies that are like whole ass companies that have like 50 people working for them. I think that's supposed to be the definition of an indie, is how many people are working on it.
You think?
And I think that's supposed to be the definition. And I don't remember exactly what the limit.
It's like 50 people, you're an indie. 51, you're a big budget.
Something like that.
I think it was interesting.
Well, that's another distinction. Like, there has to be a middle ground. It has to be indie and then it can't be indie and then AAA. There's got to be AA, or the term we just learned, triple I.
I was going to say, I think the term triple I should maybe become a little bit more of a wider. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that before? Because I hadn't.
And I think it makes a lot of sense for a company like Yacht Club. I mean, they're not. I wouldn't really consider them indie because of the amount, because of how popular their games are and the amount of money that they spend and make. But they do have a small team of people.
I think that is something that should take off, is the concept of triple I. Because I think it really does help separate that genre of video games, the indie genre, and I think it would help create a distinction between the but the more traditional indie teams of a couple people just with $1 in their pocket trying to make a game, and then your Hollow Knights or your Shovel Knights or like that. And I think it would help maybe change the perception people have of indies, so that when we get to an indie world and it's all actual indies and not a triple I in the direct, it doesn't necessarily suck. It's just that was an indie direct. It was a showcase of these teams of people who, like our friend, is probably dying to have their game showed because they've never done anything before. They've never had anything put in front of people's eyes before, and maybe look at that and give some of those games a chance. Or if they're just not for you, maybe shut the heck up.
Yeah, just leave it be. Somebody is probably super excited about Crab Souls. You know?
I am. I'm that person.
Shit on the whole thing.
I'm excited for Crab Souls. I think it's interesting.
I love Souls games. Everybody knows that.
I've always been pretty easy on the indie worlds and just loving indies and the appreciation that Nintendo shows them. But I definitely get behind, and I feel like maybe I'm changing my mindset on it. But I've done the whole a Nintendo Direct being bad, like a full one.
I might have had some things to say about this last indie direct. I'm pretty sure I was like, that was all right, but yeah, I'm not going to. I don't want to. I
said it wasn't for me. I said they didn't really have the games I wanted to see, and I fell into that same trap. I feel like it's different because most of the things that were shown were still first-party Nintendo games, Strikers, Nintendo Switch Sports, and for me, it's just that's not really what I wanted to see. But in the past, and I've definitely gotten better about it and more conscious of just. I'm just leaning into clickbait way too hard, of just railing into an event filled with games that people have poured their heart and souls into because I didn't see Zelda, which isn't fair.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a Nintendo Direct, you want to be excited about anything, you know, sure, you go into it with expectations, but, you know, you some people go into it with expectations like there's a specific game I want to see, but, you also want to, you're as a fan, you're sitting there, you're watching it, and you just want something to be excited about. So if there's nothing there that you're excited about, of course you're going to be disappointed. But there's something different about being disappointed about a bunch of AAA announcements than being disappointed about a bunch of small games. You know? Like your expectations should have been in check. You should have known that, like, maybe you're not going to be interested in every little thing that's going to be in this indie world.
Yeah, and it's also weird for the indies because I feel like we get what indies are at this point, right? They're indies. Chances are you haven't heard of 99% of them. So if you're not really that into indies and you can be shown literally 30 to 40 of them and think they all suck because they're not Hollow Knight, maybe you just don't like indies. And maybe you shouldn't be watching the indie directs hoping to see something. Maybe just wait till later in the day and see if Hollow Knight gets revealed in it and it gets blown up on the internet, like of course it will. But if you don't like indies, maybe stop being so harsh on indies.
I used to make videos back in the day about like some indie games, and people would comment, "I don't like indie games, cheap little garbage." And it's like, what? You haven't found a single indie game that you like?
I saw that a lot too, and I think a lot of it stems from a lot of indie games because budgets are small. It's obviously more affordable to do things like pixel art, and I think for a long time,
yeah, that's what it is. That's the stigma.
They were also a very popular style. So for a long time, it just seemed like every indie game was a pixel art game, but that was more just those were the popular ones, and that's what was getting shoved in front of your eyeballs, and that's why I meant if you look at
I wanted that.
Yeah, me too. But if you look at the last indie world, I really feel like every game had a different art style. They weren't all pixel art. They were mostly not pixel art, and they were all very different genres. It was back, even a few years ago, it was pixel art Metroidvania. That was the thing. Now it seems much more varied, and if it's not a roguelike, then you're doing good, because it's also mostly roguelites, but yeah, I don't know.
I've always got my eyes set for some platformers. And honestly, I was a little disappointed by the last indie world because there wasn't that many platformers. There was Gunbrella looked awesome. So the hype that got, I completely understand. Elect Head was another one, and that looked pretty good. It looked like unfortunately the art style didn't really grab me. It looked like kind of like an N plus kind of.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like gray background. So I guess my initial reaction was maybe a little bit of disappointment because but no, I take that back. There were enough games that I was excited about where I was like, okay, that was fun.
I had a whole list of 10 that I tweeted out, and I was being very serious about that list. I'm very excited for all of them.
When I went through the games the first time, I picked out like 2 or 3 that looked pretty good, and I was happy with that. But then when I went through it again on my other podcast, beat by beat, there were a lot that jumped out to me after I read into them more. So
I can't stress it enough.
That's another problem, is that I just need to... These indies just need an audience. They need to be put in front of you. You need to try it out so that you can then say, oh, I guess I am interested in this. And
that's what I was about to say. I can't stress it enough too. Like, even as a fan of indies, someone who I have said publicly, and I will say I love indies, there are sometimes I look at one and I'm like, that's just not for me, and that's fair. But then, for whatever reason, I get given a code, or I'm so desperate for an eShop video that I have like this list of games that I'm like, I'm not going to like them. And then I eventually have to chip into that list to find something for the video. And I'm like, my God, this has been on the eShop for a year and I'm only trying it now. And I totally judge a book by its cover. So, especially with indie games, sometimes you play one and you're like, this is not at all what I expected. And that, I mean, even relevant with Card Shark. I thought it was literally just a game where you're playing like poker or something and you had to lie about your hand that you have. It's not.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's full story driven. There's like 48 different kind of card games you learn to like trick people with. There's people like dying and getting shot. Like, it's crazy.
There's also over 11,000 games on the Switch. So
yeah,
I'm constantly surprised by games that have been there for a long time that just haven't found an audience or haven't made their way to me. You know,
I think the moral of the story, give indies a shot. Indies is a large category of games that can be anything from a triple I to a real budget indie. And maybe
don't stereotype indie games.
Don't stereotype indie games, and maybe just be a little nicer to the indie worlds. And if this episode does anything but that, or just that, I think we succeeded here today.
I think so too. I mean, I think this was successful because I had a great time talking to all those people.
Oh, I had a lot of fun.
I wasn't expecting it to go as smoothly as it did.
You know, our first 2 episodes are definitely us and our style and what the show's going to be moving forward. But this one felt very insightful, very cool that we got to bring people on. And it had a message that I'm very passionate about. And I think it's probably my favorite episode. I really liked it. But next episode, I want to go back to making fun of each other because we've been way too on board today.
We're gonna do that. Yeah, we didn't shit on each other too much this time. I'm a little disappointed about that.
Yeah, I know.
Fans are too.
We kind of messed up there. We probably lost some Patreons.
Probably.
Oh man, I thought he was gonna say he had a big nose. And you don't know who I'm talking about either, because I got a wide son of a gun.
I got a big nose. I know my nose is big.
No, I got mine is wide.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get all the time.
Mine is wide. Every time Kim makes me a creator character and she gets to the nose and it's the width part, she just goes tick 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 tick. I'm like, dude, stop! It's not that big.
That's me with the forehead. And eyebrows. I try to get the biggest eyebrows I can.
I never have eyebrows for me because your eyebrows are very nice. My eyebrows are like my eyebrow gave up halfway across my face, and it just kind of like fizzles out into nothing. And there's no half brow in any creator character selection.
Just
Should we end the show?
Just forget it. We did you say can we? We can do anything you want.
Yes, I said should, but yeah, can we?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we did. We went way overboard here with this one.
I think this might be over an hour.
Maybe. I forgot to set a timer. I threw my phone before.
Thank you guys for watching. If you want today's bonus episode where we're going to be talking about the absolute nightmare that was trying to get this show up after we shot the first 2 episodes 2 months ago, and the drama that was having to fire a whole team of people, there'll be a bonus episode on the Patreon.
Wasn't our team. It wasn't our team. It was put together for us, and then we were like, we were. There's some bad dealings happening, but no bad blood. Maybe a little bit.
I hope. Yeah, I think someone's pretty mad at us.
Video. Also we're gonna have a behind the scenes too.
Oh yeah, we shot a behind the scenes
of how you're here right now.
Yeah, of
how we hologrammed you in like Tupac.
Like the video, leave a comment down below, subscribe, and if you're listening to the audio version, which apparently a lot of you are, because again, I hate to bring it up one more time, but the top gaming podcast on Apple, you can rate the podcast no matter where you're listening, even on Spotify, and then leave a review. That would really help the show grow. But that's it. That's all.
I hope it's still the top gaming podcast when this goes up, or else we're gonna look like idiots.
Buy a shirt. Buy some merch.
Oh, I gotta put merch up.
Told him to make some shirts because I think we need them. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.